It's called Alto Nights. It was like a gangster movie, and he plays two different people in the movie. And
Oh.
it made $3 million. Alto Nights was like a gangster movie, and
Oh, it only made $3 million?
yeah,
Jeez.
Alto Nights was like a gangster movie, and
Oh, it only made $3 million? Oh, there we go. All right, I think we sound good. Are you still there? Did I lose you?
yeah, I'm still here.
Okay,
No,
cool.
I'm still
I don't
here.
know. It sounded like it cut out.
3.2 million from 2,800 cinemas.
Wait, oh, we're
I
live, by
don't.
the way. Sorry, I don't even remember
Yeah,
hitting the live button. What's up, Victor?
good job, Mr. De Niro.
I watched Goodfellas for the first time.
Oh my God, the first
The
time?
first time about a week ago. So I've been okay. So it's funny. Joseph and I have been talking about this. Actually, I'm gonna pull this up because we'll do this at some point today, even though Joseph's not here. Hang on. Pause. Let's see. There it is. So, all right, I'll fill you in on this. Actually, let's do this at the beginning. This will be fun.
All right.
Okay, so I'll give you the rundown. I watched the first Lord of the Rings anime movie for the first time. Oh, the animated ones from like the 80s, Victor. Those are cool. I used to watch. Hopefully,
they're so good.
Yeah, hopefully
But
it
like,
wasn't the Rohirrim one because I haven't watched that yet. I heard it's incredibly dull.
the first, so the those ones from the like 70s and 80s, the first one is like otherworldly good. And
Yeah,
then the other ones, like it's almost like they lost their budget to finish them, but they're still a lot of fun to watch. Like I definitely remember that artwork and like the animation and everything, and just now. Thanks, Victor. I'm gonna have to go back and watch those.
they're on HBO Max,
Yep, I'll be watching those.
and I have not. Okay, so they're on my list to go back and rewatch. But what I've been okay. So a couple weeks ago, one of the guys that I work with, and I've told this story like a million times at this point, but it's fine. Um, he, he's Gen Z. I work with, I would say, a handful of Gen Z kids. I say kids, but some of them are literally adults at this point. A lot of them are actually.
But maybe physically.
Yeah.
But not.
But there's a thing, and people have kind of confirmed this suspicion that I've had. That Gen Z did not grow up watching movies in what I would say is like the traditional sense. Now, a lot of them have seen Marvel, right? A lot of them have seen everything Marvel has put out.
Right, yeah.
But then when you're like, oh yeah, well, cool. Have you ever seen like even like Star Wars, like old school Star Wars, like Lord of the Rings, stuff, Jurassic Park.
What?
Yeah, dude.
Like how?
That's what I'm saying is like I didn't understand. And one of the guys, I talk about it a lot because I love movies and I like talking to people about this stuff. And so I'm always like bringing stuff up. I'm like I reference stuff all the time, dude. And everyone, I don't know. I guess they just don't like know. I was thinking about this the other day. Oh crap! I really hope my dog doesn't have to go outside. He's being weird. There's the reference that I use all the time is that whenever I'm like at work or I have to like get by, people always go scusi. Do you know what that's from?
Euro Trip,
Yeah,
baby.
dude, you're like the only person, dude. It is 100% the thing that I reference the most in my everyday life.
That movie or just that
Just
line?
that specific thing. Because I saw that movie when I was probably like 15 or something like that, and for whatever, that is like still one of the funniest things to me.
Oh, that scene on the train. Yeah. Hey, rip. Rest in peace, Michelle Trachtenberg.
Oh, I know, dude. I just started watching Buffy again not too long ago. She doesn't come into the show until I think season 5. And that's That's all I'm gonna say because otherwise I'd be spoiling a lot.
I've never watched Buffy, so I don't know like
Oh,
what era that was, like what year she would have showed up. But what I can tell you,
90, might be 2001.
okay,
I
so
can't
she
quite
probably
remember.
was in that before she was in Eurotrip. But what all I
Yeah,
can
she
remember
was. She
is
was a lot younger.
I knew her as like Harriet the Spy and
Yeah,
like a bunch of like other like Nickelodeon stuff, and then she showed up in Eurotrip, and you're like, whoa, what happened to her?
yeah,
Somebody glowed up.
yeah. She got
Is that
hot.
yeah? Did I say that right? Glowed up.
Glowed up.
Is that
Sure, sure.
yeah?
um. So anyway, I one of the guys that I work with, he's kind of into film, but he doesn't have like a really good like reference for a lot of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to be a thing. I'm sure you've seen this going around a little bit when it comes to musicians. There's a lot of kids who have grown up and they're like technically proficient musicians, like unbelievably good. You know, they have
Yeah.
all the resources now.
Oh yeah,
To
YouTube
yeah.
and yeah, just everything. Yeah.
So and some of them have insane talent. The problem is that they don't have like a lot of them, and this is true in a lot of like art industries. Joseph and I talked about this with like Millie Bobby Brown not too long ago. The
Mm-hmm.
people who are, and not honestly, she's not a very good actress, but a lot of the people who are in these like industries now, they don't have like reference to the past for this thing that they are like really involved with. So with music, it's like, okay, I can shred on a guitar, but I don't know how to like write a song.
Yeah.
I don't know how to, and you don't necessarily like having that talent doesn't necessarily mean you know how to do this other thing. But like for me, I'm like, all right, if you're trying to like even make short films, if you're trying to do all this stuff, you kind of need to have a certain amount of reverence for the past and the people who
Right.
have done these things really well. And he was asking me about it, and I was like, all right. I was like, I'll do this for you. Because I think I had planned on doing this anyway for the show. And I was like, this is a really good like exercise for me because I can really try to put together like a definitive list. And so the goal with it, oh, that's already on there. Okay. So the goal with it is not to pick like if I'm giving you a list, this isn't necessarily going to be like my top 100. These are like the best 100 films ever made.
Right.
The goal is these are incredibly influential films. Some better than others. I would consider all of them to be at least good. But it's not necessarily going to be stuff that's like really weird. Like American History X isn't going to be on this list.
Yeah. Even though it's a really well acted movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I need to go back and watch it. Probably isn't going to be on the list.
That movie rocked me to my core when
Yeah.
I first saw that movie. Oh.
But there's a lot of stuff in here that I'm like, this is like what like just like peak cinema. This is the stuff that like it's not all going to be super complicated. It's not going to be like, but
Right.
you know. And so what I started doing is I was like, all right, let me go through. I was like, I'm staying away from superhero movies as of right now. Oh, actually, there are two. No, sorry. There are 3 comic book movies on this list, but they're what I would consider to be just like a little bit more obscure. There is not a modern day Marvel movie that's going to end up on this list.
Can I just take a stab at one of those comic book movies?
Sure.
Is Kick-Ass?
Actually, no, it's not on the list. It's not on here yet. It might.
I
might
thought
make
I
it.
knew you. I thought I knew you.
That is so. I'm only up to 51. I've made it to 51, so I still have a little ways to go. Some things to fill in. I was trying to avoid, for the most part, sequels, trilogies. I've made a couple exceptions, and I'll probably go back and make a couple more because I was like, okay, this is definitely like definitively something you need to watch, but I'll put the the first film or whatever on there so that you can maybe watch them back to back, so you at least have a little bit of a better understanding of like what was going on.
Cough, cough, Terminator 2.
Uh,
Cough, cough.
okay, so all of that being said, what I've been having Joseph do, because he doesn't know what this list looks like, I haven't given it to him.
Mm-hmm.
I've basically have told him 1 through 51.
Okay.
So you pick a number 1 through 51, and then I'll tell you what movie it is, and then he and I have like talked about it, and he picked. What did he pick on? I can't remember what he picked on here last week. Oh, it was. Where is that? That way you won't pick this one. He picked a couple, but it's fine. Let's see here. Oh, where is it? That's really weird. So I'm like looking at all of these. I thought it would be easier. Maybe it was higher on my list. Oh, I found it. Okay, so he picked 26. These are in no specific order.
Yeah.
But he picked 26, which is Die Hard.
Mm.
And he's like, "Oh, I've actually never seen Die Hard." And I was like, Joseph, you're not allowed back on the podcast till you watch Die Hard.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I have not followed up with him to find out if he's seen it yet or not.
So let's touch back on that Gen Z thing.
Sure.
Where they haven't seen a lot of movies. Is it because the movie theater kind of started to die as they were coming of age?
I think they spent. Okay, so it's a couple things. It's possibly because of the environment that they grew up in. Just saying, like some families, like that's just not the thing that they do. Like movies are not. It's not a thing for them.
Right.
And then when a lot of them were growing up, Marvel was the thing. So
Yeah.
if you were going to the movies, you were going to go see a Marvel movie more than likely. And yeah, I'm sure there was some cartoon. There's like cartoons and some other stuff that they're like aware of, and it's not that they're all completely unaware of things. But man, like you talk about some stuff, and it's just like stuff that should be. Oh yeah, I've definitely seen that, and it's like that they haven't, you know.
So a Gen Z would have been what, like say 15 and 2015 ish?
Let's see. Hang on.
Because at some point,
Gen Z.
at some point, there is like streaming existed, and
Yeah.
most of these movies, like classic movies, are very easy to get to.
So 1996 to 2010 is considered Gen Z, allegedly.
Okay, so just going back to that, so like a 15-year-old in the prime of your movie watching years, right? At least for most
So,
other generations, you would have been. It would have been 2010, 2011.
2010. So Iron Man came out in 2009.
So yes, they literally did grow up during their prime movie watching time, watching nothing but Marvel
movies, because you got to think like so you're getting into your teenage years in 2009 if you're 96, or even younger, right? Like and so some of these these kids are all growing up on Marvel movies. And some of them, let's see, so 96, 2006, 2016, you're 20. Yeah. So it makes a lot of sense that if they're going to the theater, they're going to go see Marvel movies, specifically. Which I kind of found fascinating.
Growing up, me growing up, I'm obviously a millennial, more like probably like an older millennial.
You're older. I would I'd be considered like an elder millennial as well.
Yeah. So when I was growing up, you had the main movies that would come out, and you'd pay, whatever, inflation, blah blah blah, like $7, $8 bucks.
It used to be so cheap to go to the
$7 or
theater.
$8 to go see a movie. But they also, every town that I've ever lived in and throughout my life has always had like a dollar movie theater, $1.50 movie theater, where it's like they weren't the movies that just came out. They were like maybe out for 2 or 3 months, and then you'd go see that movie for $1. Or like, or random days of the week they'd be super cheap like that. So going to the movies was like, that's what you did with your friends. It was
Yep.
just to get away from your house.
Oh yeah.
Like, I probably still owned 453 VHS tapes, at home. So I mean, I just don't get. I don't get how
Yeah.
somebody could go this long without seeing Die Hard, without seeing. I met someone the other day that had never seen Jurassic Park.
Which is
I mean,
like that's wild to me because that's such like a definitive film,
hmm
you know?
Raiders of the Lost Ark. How can
Mhm.
someone go their whole life without seeing that masterpiece?
All right. So
Ugh,
with that being said,
got me worked up already.
give me a number 1 through 51.
37.
What is 37? Ah, 37 is a film that came out in 1995 about a group of thieves who rob banks in a little movie called Heat,
Ooh, great movie. Oh
which
man.
which is the definitive like heist movie for me.
Oh, for sure.
I
That
don't.
that movie is that movie is such a definitive heist movie that the FBI shows the shootout scene to show tactics
Yeah,
for shootouts.
that's crazy. I love Heat. We talk on the show a lot about like because it's a little bit of a longer movie, about like pacing and
Yep.
like just excellently paced movie. The tension's great. This is like some of those guys, the actors in that, like it's them at like the peak of
Oh yeah.
their stuff.
Val Kilmer, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro,
Mhm.
all of them right at the top of their game.
Excellent movie. Something I haven't seen in recent years that I probably need to go back and watch. But like I said, I've been going through like a list of stuff that has just passed me by, or for whatever reason I was like, oh, I'll get around to it. Da, 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 da. So that is that's on the list. All right, give me another number.
5.
5. Okay. 5 is Hot Fuzz.
Ooh, another great movie. David, you're awesome at this.
So I love Hot Fuzz. I think it's Edgar Wright's best movie.
Ooh,
Shaun
hot
of,
take.
I guess Shaun of the Dead has a special place for me.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite is Shaun of the Dead.
But Hot Fuzz is, I think, I think if you gave me enough time, like I think objectively it's his best movie.
I can remember seeing that movie for the first time and watching it and going, I have no freaking clue what's going on. I got to the end of the movie and I was like, what in the world did I just watch? And I watched it again maybe like a year later
Yeah.
and thought it was one of the funniest
Oh,
movies I've ever seen.
it's so funny. It's so well written. The cast is great. Like all of the setups and payoffs and all these little things that are like happening and like the mystery and just like the way that it kind of flips like stuff like that on its head.
Yeah.
It's so good, dude. I watched it. It was either last year or the year before. After having not seen it for a while, and I was like, I love this. I like Edgar Wright a lot. I think for the most part he's been pretty solid throughout his career. Though I think since he kind of moved away from writing with his name slipped in my mind. Not Nick Frost, the other Simon
Pegg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were just like because they used to co-write together
Yeah.
back in the day, and I think that's when he was at his strongest. Because he's always been a good director. I just don't think he's quite as good of a writer.
My favorite thing about those Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz specifically is like the dramatic camera panning, where it's like
he
it's just
created
like a random. Yeah, it's like just like
Yeah.
a random scene. He's like brushing his teeth, but it's like
Yeah, and he does like the swoosh cuts.
Yep.
And
Yep.
he pretty much invented that. Like
Yeah,
that was something that was very very much Edgar Wright.
Yep. Oh man, such a good movie. So are you gonna when you finish this list, are you gonna provide this to your Gen Z coworker and tell him he gets like a quarter for every movie he watches or something like that?
No, but he's already like begging me to give him the list, even though it's not done yet. So I need to. I
Maybe there's hope for him. Maybe there's
yeah,
hope.
I what's cool about it is like there's a couple other people at work I'm going to give it to as well because I really want them to like watch these movies and then be like, holy crap, or like at least start having those conversations.
Right.
So, but yeah, man, it's coming along, and there's a few things that some like sequels to some of these I need to go back and watch. A couple of these that I'm rewatching myself, just to get a better grip on it. And then there's a couple of these movies on here. There's two movies on here that I think from like a mainstream perspective are probably two of the most offensive movies that have ever been made.
Ooh.
So I'm curious about that because I kind of like part of me wants to give him the list and just like not tell him anything.
Yeah.
And
And be like, you're not allowed to research any of these.
yeah, like it's
go
like
in blind.
You
to
have
everything.
to don't watch trailers. You have to go in blind to all of these and just like trust me on this. And so I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see what they're gonna think.
I like it. That's a good plan. Let me know. Let me know when you finish it. I'd be happy to look at it all and watch all of them over again because I guarantee. I bet you by the time you're done, you do 100 of them. I bet I've seen 97 of them.
For sure. Hey, I'm gonna stop the recording real quick and let my dog out because I think he's got to go. But we'll still be live, so you can talk with Victor or whoever's in here. I'll be right back.
All right, no problem.
Sam.
Snow White live action ratings are lower than Dragon Ball Evolution. That's that's not hard to believe. That it feels like everybody's piling on that movie. I have not seen it, refuse to see it, will not see it, but I guarantee it's a hot mess. And the we were talking earlier about how the memes about it are really funny. Like Babylon B posted something that was like Disney's already decided to enter the Snow White movie into the vault, making it not able to be retrieved. Uh, the ISOM 3 comic, I guarantee David will. He loves those. I'm not I used to be a comic book reader. Just kind of don't really do a lot of it anymore. But you know, I researched a little bit of Daredevil Born Again, the actual comic today, and it kind of piqued my interest on comics again. So who knows? Maybe I'll get back into it as well. But I know David is he's obsessed with those. He loves them. So yes, yeah. Thor is always fun. My favorite. So my favorite comic was that I've ever read was probably The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller. But I also really love like the World War Hulk run in Marvel. But only because I think my favorite Marvel comic book character is Hercules. In the comic, he's so well done. He's so funny. He's basically like a drunken Thor. Even though I guess Thor gets drunk sometimes, but he's pretty good. But the World War Hulk run was one of my probably favorites. I'm excited to see if Marvel's actually going to try to put that onto the screen. We'll see. Who knows if any of those rumors are true. But this Daredevil Born Again comic was a lot of fun to go through. Really good really good artwork. The story is really interesting. It doesn't really seem like the show is kind of following it, maybe loosely in like their season 3, but this season is not really following the Born Again comic. David, are you going to review the ISOM 3 comic?
I'll probably talk about it. Usually with that stuff, I'm like, I got it. Here's what I thought, and we're moving on.
Gotcha.
Comics don't. That stuff's never really done well for us. You know, I like it.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to like, I feel like you got to like focus on that stuff to really make it. You know. But I bring it up in discussions and when we're talking about like writing and stuff like that. Because I love.
Yeah, I was telling Victor that just researching the Daredevil Born Again comic, not the show, but the comic, it made me kind of like, maybe I should start reading some more comic books.
Yeah, man, I love it. It's become like my outlet for reading recently. well, I guess over the last couple of years, because like I kind of got bored with normal books.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. And it's not like there's new. Well, comic books is having a similar problem too, but I don't know. Like, there's not. People like talk about, like the fantasy genre and like all this sort of stuff, and I'm just kind of like, okay, like I don't know what it is. Like, I've been so disinterested in that, and then it was a couple of years ago. I was watching a stream, and somebody was interviewing Mark Millar, the guy that created Kick-Ass. Speaking of Kick-Ass, and he was talking about one of the comic books that he had written a couple years ago called The Magic Order. And he was like, yeah, it's like, he was like, honestly, it's probably one of my favorite things that I've like ever written. And I was like, oh man, that's cool. And I was like, this guy's written some like good stuff, Like I'd read Wanted back in the day, and a little bit of Kick-Ass and maybe Kingsman. I can't remember if I read Kingsman when that movie came out. Regardless, I picked up Magic Order like right after that. And maybe it was like during the interview, because you can get the trade paperbacks and they're like $15.
Yeah, they're
like,
not expensive.
Yeah,
it's the easiest way to read comics, but it's not necessarily the most rewarding way. Having the actual comic in your hand is a lot different.
Yeah, I like the floppies quite a bit, but I have quite a few trade paperbacks just because it's like a good way to have stuff accumulated, and then like it maintains the floppies better. Yeah. So I'm not like tearing them up, Everything's bagged and boarded at this point. So that's kind of where I started. And then obviously like Eric July's been doing some stuff with Rippa. And originally that was just my plan. I was like, Isom's all right. And then I liked Alpha Core a lot, and Yaira was good too. And around the time that Yaira's coming out, the Saskas wrote a run of Black Widow comics. So I bought those on eBay, and I got all the floppies, and they were in pretty good condition, and enjoyed that, and was like, okay, like I guess I'm gonna keep, and I'd already read a little bit of like Mark Millar stuff, and I'm almost done. I think I've almost caught up on all of his like in-universe stuff, like all the stuff he's written specifically for his like shared universe. And then he's got like some Superman runs, and he's got a Wolverine run called Enemy of the State, and they're about to re-release that in like an omnibus, and so I'm gonna pick that up I think next month. Nice. When they get the like second edition of that comes out. Because like if you try to get the omnibus of that like right now, you're gonna spend like a couple $100, and I'm like, not a chance, dude. not for that. And so I've really been enjoying it. Like I love the mix of writing and images to portray the story. And I find it so fascinating that when I was growing up, this was a thing that a lot of people were like, that doesn't count as literature.
Yeah, no way. Some of the best stories ever told have been told in comic books.
Dude, Mark Millar, my favorite story that he's written probably is called King of Spies. And I talked about this last week on the show. It's basically kind of a what if James Bond had to come out of retirement. And so like he's like past his prime, but then he has to come out of retirement for like one last like her like mission or whatever. And it's so good. It's so good. And then he has created one of my like current favorite villains, Nemesis, who's I've told you about Nemesis before, but he's like he's basically like if Joker was like a mass murderer. It was
I
like
mean,
he
he
kind of
is though.
he is, but like not like this guy is. Like
Yeah.
the way that this is set up, he's very grandiose in like everything that he does. Um, like I guess it's a slight spoiler for the first run that he did, but like it opens up and he's like in Japan, and he's got either like the I don't know if it's the president of Japan or if it's like a major company in Japan, but he's basically got him like tied. I think he's in a chair, but he's like tied up on the speed rail in Japan, and like trying to get information out of him, and he gets it, and he's like, "Thanks, man," and he just lets the train just like barrel into the guy. And it's like he's like the only villain in a long time, because he's got his own series, and then I think it was last year. No, it was year before. He did his first like crossover event for like all the stuff in his universe, and Nemesis like walks on the scene in one episode, in one of the issues, and you know immediately that things are about to be very bad for everybody involved in that. And like that's what you want out of a villain. Like that's how you craft a character like that. And I realized when that was going on, I was like, this is like one of the best villains that's been written in years.
Yeah. There's no sympathetic villain in him, right?
No, he's not sympathetic at all. He's a bastard.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you want out of that scenario.
They just can't seem to write villains at all anymore without having some sort of sympathetic background where you're like, well, I kind of agree with what he's doing. I don't like it, but I mean, he's got a reason for why he's the way he is.
Yeah, I think that it's like almost criminal that people aren't talking about Nemesis more. Because he just finished the third run, so it's like that the trade paperback will be out in a couple months for this new Nemesis run that he did, and I was like enjoying it, and I'm like, yeah, this is pretty good. I was like, I don't know if this is quite as good as the other two, and the last issue, dude, is so good. It's like all this build up, and then you get to the last issue, and I don't want to spoil what happens, because it's still a little too fresh. But there's like a couple things that happen in it that I was like, yeah, this is probably my favorite villain right now. Like he's up there for sure. And it's like if I'm not talking about it, I feel like nobody in my circles knows who this guy is. It's so cool, dude. Though I'm happy that it's not a total like wasteland when it comes to this kind of stuff, especially like newer stuff. Even though technically Nemesis has been around for a while, but like again, it's
looks like 2010 was when it was. Did you know that Warner Brothers now has acquired the rights to adapt it into a film?
Oh, really? Dude.
Yep. And supposedly as of 2021, someone has written the latest draft.
Okay, hang on. Who was the guy that wrote or that directed Kingsman?
So in this article that I'm reading, because I was just looking it up, was it Matt Carnahan? Joe Carnahan? Yeah, the script by Joe Carnahan was finished in February 2015. Millar said if Kingsman: The Secret Service did well at the box office, the film might start filming that year. The rights, however, elapsed in August, and Warner Brothers acquired them to adapt it, and then someone named Emerald Fennell has written the latest draft of the screenplay. I don't know who he is. But...
Matthew Vaughn directed Kingsman.
Oh, it's a girl.
Oh. Well, I mean, listen, I say this all the time. If if they literally, they have the script in front of them already.
Yep.
You have those. So all you need to do is adapt it. Like you don't even have to change much. Like, and so if they keep kind of the tone and just how diabolical Nemesis is, it'll be great. And
we'll be able to tell how good of a writer she is because she's one of the main writers for the World of John Wick ballerina movie.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. Wait, what's the name?
Her Emerald
Lily
Fennell.
I think Matthew
Oh,
Vaughn
she
could.
won an Academy Award.
Oh,
What?
I think Matthew Vaughn probably could adapt that as well. They really have to like lean into how there's a bit of humor behind it. Like it's dark, but there's also quite a bit of humor to be had there. So if they can like get that balance right, that'd be exciting, dude. Oh my gosh, I'd love to see that. I know Netflix has the rights to a couple of his other projects.
Yep.
So we're supposed to be getting the Magic Order at some point, which if they do that right, it's going to be good. What else have I been reading by him? Oh, he's got another series called Nightclub. That's really good about these three teens who get turned into vampires and they become superheroes, and it's really good too. So there's stuff out there. It really is just about how they end up doing the adaptations. If they get it right, we'll be eaten. It'll be good, man. But like if it's like a lot of this other stuff that's come out in the past few years, like we could be in trouble. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I
just want to poke back to a comment Victor said. So Victor, you said you had some of the old low fantasy world stuff like Conan and the Elric books. That's now like the fourth time in probably 2 weeks I've seen those Elric books mentioned after never hearing about them before in my life. So that to me must be a sign I have to read them. However, I am on book 12 of the Wheel of Time. It has been a year-long adventure, so as soon as I finish those, maybe I can start those next.
Yeah, Elric is I can't remember which way it goes. I want to say that Witcher is based off of Elric, but it might be vice versa. I think it's
definitely older than The Witcher.
Okay, so yeah, so because it's very similar, like character with the white hair and the sword, and
yes.
If
I remember correctly, he was the inspiration for like a lot of like your like elves and dwarves and stuff that entered into a lot. And I don't know if he inspired Tolkien or if Tolkien inspired him, but there's some kind of connection there.
Yeah, you would think that I guess it just depends on the time period when they were both written, right?
Yeah.
It's a little outside my knowledge base. But yeah, man. All right. So we need to get into a few topics. I think we'll save Daredevil for the end.
Yeah, that's fine.
Figure we'll talk about it kind of generally. I'm not necessarily against spoilers. It's fine to do. It'll be towards the end of the show too, so we can warn people if they're watching it. Because I don't know if you're aware, but numbers wise, Daredevil is not doing very well.
Oh, bummer. We'll talk about it later. I don't hate it. It's at least something to watch.
I'm probably a little further on the hate train than you are. I'm kind of indifferent, but there's a lot about it I really don't like. Where was the article? Okay, so Daredevil Born Again launched with 7.5 million views on Disney, which was lower than The Acolyte and Agatha All Along.
Ooh, that's not good shows to be pit up against.
No. And
especially to do worse than.
I think a lot of it's burnout for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it probably wasn't. I think people might have already been completely out of it before Agatha, but after Agatha, even more people were like, I think I'm done with this. A lot of people have gotten rid of their like Disney Plus subscriptions. Dude, I saw an ad the other night where they were offering the like Hulu, Disney Plus, and either Max or ESPN. I can't, they have those bundles now for like $2.99 for like 4 months.
Yeah, I saw that today too.
And it was like, oh, like you gotta,
I only have them because it's included in like my Verizon plan.
Yeah, well, that's why I have HBO Max because it's included with my internet plan,
Yep.
my fiber. So yeah, not doing so hot. Now you had a hot take recently when we were
Oh,
talking, and I saw this. I had saved this because I'm kind of excited about it, and I might need to go find an IMAX theater to go watch this. But The Dark Knight is returning to IMAX on May 23rd.
yeah. My hot take, you didn't like it, is that the I didn't think it was all that good watching it 12 years later or
I
however long it was.
I think you're nuts, especially if you go back and watch Batman '89.
No, no, don't get me wrong. I don't think that I mean, as a kid, that movie was amazing, and
Right.
the Dark Knight does a lot of things really, really good. It was more about just like I acknowledge Heath Ledger did such a good job in that movie, but his lines were just so they felt so out of place watching it in 2025
I
because
need to I need to go back and watch it again, mostly to tell you that you're nuts because I think you're nuts. But I am curious with that perspective that you've got now. I'm curious to go back and be like, okay, let me see what Justin is. I'm gonna try to understand where he's coming from.
we just my wife and I just watched The Dark Knight Rises, and I had the same feeling about that movie. Like
Oh, nobody well, The Dark Knight Rises. Everybody pretty much definitively is like, even people who like that movie, they're like, yeah, we know it's not very good.
it's like for me it was Catwoman in that movie. Like
Mm.
every line she said was just like it felt so it just felt so forced. Like it just was so weird. I don't know.
Oh
It's like
yeah.
it's like that thing where like if you watch a TV show and then you go back and you immediately rewatch the scene that you just watched, it feels weird that second time because
Mm.
you just saw it. It just that's what it felt like. It almost feels like so many movies have copied those movies since then,
Mm.
and the line delivery and the pacing and everything that it just feels like I've seen that movie 1,000 times, even though I've probably only seen it, 150 times.
Dang. Um. Well,
I still
we'll
enjoyed
find
them.
out.
They still were fun to
Yeah.
watch.
Well, yeah.
And
I yeah.
my wife obviously enjoyed them because she usually falls asleep through any movies that we watch, and she stayed awake for all
There you
three of
go.
those
There you
Batman
go.
movies.
I'm make well, I guess now. So I started last night. I'm going through the older ones. So I watched Mask of the Phantasm, which
Great
is
movie.
very good. Oh man,
So good. Yeah,
yeah, it's
so
very
good.
good. And then I did Batman '89 last night, which I'm gonna be honest, I don't really like it.
Yeah,
I don't
it
really
doesn't
like
hold up great.
it.
It doesn't
there's
hold up great.
there's stuff that I really like in it. And I love the design of Gotham. The music is great. Um, I, Batman straight up murks a couple people in it.
Yep. He does not have the I can't
Dude,
kill people rule in
it
that
is
movie.
so funny. He get like the very end of it, he gets in this fight with this one dude, and the fight goes on for like a couple minutes. They're like
Yep.
up in the clock tower going over,
Yep.
and at one point he just tosses him off the clock tower.
Yep. I think he also blows some people up at one
Oh yeah,
point.
he's got like the Batmobile's got like machine guns on it.
Yep.
And yeah, I think he does blow up a couple people. The movie's also a little too long. Like the pacing's not very good in it, and some of the characters feel like they're kind of filler. Like it just doesn't. The whole thing doesn't quite fit together. Um, and so I want to watch Batman Returns. I started it and I was just way too tired and I fell asleep. So I was like, all right, I'll restart. And then do that one, and then I gotta watch Batman Forever, and then Batman and Robin.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
yeah,
I'm sorry that
well,
you're gonna torture yourself like that.
Batman and Robin is hilarious.
Oh, it's so campy. It
And
might be the most campy movie I've ever seen.
that's kind of what I'm excited for, is because I know what I'm getting into with Forever and Batman and Robin. So I'm curious to see if like how I'll feel about him all these years later. Which is the fun of doing that, is like going back and you're just like, oh man, it's like this does not hold up. But yeah, I've been enjoying it so far. And like I told you, like we were talking on the phone earlier, and I watched Dread recently, which at this point I'm just convinced it's underrated. Like everybody who's seen it, I think typically at least likes it. But it just kind of it never made a splash, unfortunately. And
I still remember watching that movie for the first time, thinking I had just seen a masterpiece, and we were going to get like a Dread world that was just going to be so cool.
I know. I kind of thought something similar. I was like, man, they really could run with this, because I don't think their budget was very high for it.
No, it was really low, I think, actually.
Yeah,
compared.
And Cersei, what's her name? Lena
Headey.
Yeah.
Headley.
This was before she was like huge in Game of Thrones, so like they probably got her for a good deal.
That movie's budget was $45 million.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
How much did it make? Do you know? I wonder if I can look.
90 million.
Okay. I mean, not great, not awful.
No.
I imagine it's been a really long time, but I imagine the marketing budget on that wasn't very high.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the kind of movie that like I want to point to and be like, Hollywood, this is what you need to be doing. Like, do more of this. Like, do it well, but do more of this. Like, cheaper budgets, and get this kind of quality out there, instead of doing these like $200 million movies that you can't make your budgets back on. Or, in the case of Snow White, the production budget was $269 million. So, if you do,
what do you do? Triple that for marketing or something, like two times?
2.5, I think, is what a lot of people. Some people will tell you 3. It's possible that it could
you have
be
to
3
think
with
like
this.
that movie's marketing budget had to be huge, because they've been marketing it for like 12 years now.
Yeah, for a long time.
And then they've had to do reshoots and take the people out and put in a bunch of CGI because somebody couldn't keep their mouth shut.
Yeah, speaking of Game of Thrones, Peter Dinklage, pulling up that, and a lot of people say like, no, like it wasn't like he didn't do that or whatever, but it's like I'm pretty sure at this point it's clear that he pulled up the ladder for all of the other people that were looking for work. And I was like, dang, dude, like, it's weird. Hollywood's dirty, man.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, worldwide, Snow White is sitting at about $87 million.
They got a long ways to go.
Yeah. Oh, what up, Jenna? Good to see you. Yeah. I have a feeling. So the biggest thing with this is always that second week, because that's where you see the drop off. That's where like if it has the potential to have legs or not. So Guardians 3, word of mouth helped that out, and because it didn't do very well its opening weekend, and then word of mouth and people being like, yeah, it's actually pretty good. Like, you should go see it. I mean, I wasn't quite that hyped about it, but it was good enough where everyone was like, you can, like they were like, all right, we'll go see it. Joseph is still out of town on business. He couldn't make it this week. I asked him because he had planned on being on with us, but he was in New Mexico for work, I think. And so he's like, yeah, we'll just, and he doesn't want to talk about Daredevil anyway. I couldn't get him to watch it. So,
oh man,
I know. So yeah, that's kind of like where we're at with that. Obviously, I think Barbie, like word of mouth, was huge for that, and Oppenheimer. Have you seen Oppenheimer?
I have not seen Oppenheimer. It's one of those ones I need to watch.
It's good. It's not great, but it is good. And even though it's like 3 hours long, the time like flew by. Like I was pretty.
That's been my only hesitation is the length of the movie.
I actually think it was last week? I finally just sat down and was like, I'm just watching this. I was like, screw it. I was like, I just got through like Goodfellas. It's basically the same length. I was like, here we go. Let's go. Oppenheimer was mid. Changed my mind. I think that is a completely acceptable way to take that. There's a lot of there's some cool stuff in there and some interesting stuff about sort of like people being spooked out by like communism at the time, in a different way than they are now, but and like him having like ties to that, and then like it plays really well into the drama of the movie, without it being like, hey, you should check out this communism thing, which they like to do sometimes. So yeah, I think like overall it was pretty good. Not blown away. It was definitely better than Tenet. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
No, you went and saw it. I mean, everybody's always kind of excited for a Christopher Nolan movie to come out. And, you went and saw it, and you were like, I couldn't hear half the movie.
It is
the sound mixing was bad or something like that.
It is by far his worst movie. Yeah, the audio's terrible. Apparently, it's still terrible. Like even on the 4K releases and stuff, they I guess they tried to fix some of it, but it was really bad. And then everything about Tenet, there's like one cool scene in the movie. It's like 2.5 hours long. There's one cool scene, and it's the one that everybody knows because it was in the trailer, where like he's going like backwards in the car and all that crazy stuff's happening. So really cool like action in that, but that movie is nonsense. And I thought I was out of my mind watching it, but it was not good.
I think I tried to look up one time like what the plot was of that movie, and even reading it, I didn't understand what was going on.
The plot, they're just like, we don't know. We didn't even try to figure it out. Okay, so yeah, Disney Snow White hasn't been doing very well. It has, I can't remember what aggregator it was on. It might be IMDb. I don't know if you saw saw this.
I did.
But it's actually lower than this now. I think it's down to a 2.2. I think it is now the worst rated movie on IMDb at a 2.2. I might be wrong. There might be stuff, but it's now lower than Dragon Ball Evolution.
Yeah, that's what Victor said at the very beginning.
Oh, he did mention that, didn't he? Stealing my thunder, Victor. But yeah, I'm kind of not surprised. I don't know if it really is worse than Dragon. I feel like Dragon Ball Evolution is one of those things where it's like you like massacred like a beloved. Well, okay. To be fair, like Snow White is also probably beloved. It's more the circle, Like Dragon Ball is a little closer to me than Snow White is. So it's like, what did y'all do to this? But it's crazy that it's got such a low score now. Oh man.
Do you think that it's being like astroturfed to be that low, or do you think
it's possible.
Genuinely believe it's that bad?
That's a really good question. So I know, like people definitely like go in and there's probably a lot of people giving it Internet Movie Database. I'm gonna look it up right now.
What's Rotten Tomatoes does like an audience score versus the critical score?
Yeah, so I know on Metacritic it was like a 0.6.
Ooh, that's pretty good, right?
No. Okay.
It's not out of 1, right?
Yeah, true. Oh, dude. It's not at a 2.2 anymore.
Is it a 2.0?
No, it's at 1.7.
Oh, God.
And obviously, these are just, this is all like user generated, but that is crazy. Oh my gosh. Do they have like, is there a way to, 90K 1-star ratings. It's so funny. Oh my gosh. I wonder if this will affect Rachel Zegler's career.
Yeah, she might not have one anymore.
Yeah. I'm wondering if that was because allegedly like Disney was trying to like they gave her like a gag order.
I would hope so after some of the stuff she was saying
Oh,
in the
dude,
beginning.
it, I don't know if this will affect anything. But it's kind of crazy to see like the fallout of that. Like this is a really interesting year for movies. Because you have like Snow White finally coming out, and everybody pretty much being proven right with what they were thinking. Where it's like the movie's gonna be bad and it's not gonna do well. Like but everybody was curious because they were like, all right, how much are like normal people paying attention, you know? And it looks like they are paying attention because it's not doing well financially. So that's really interesting. And then you've got June. I think it's June. It's either June or July when like the new Jurassic World, Fantastic Four, and Superman are coming out. Yep. Jurassic World's just kind of like it's a soft reboot or whatever, so that's kind of interesting just from the like I'm curious how it's going to do. Like those movies typically always make an insane amount of money
even when they're terrible.
Even when they're like dog crap. Yeah, they sometimes do all right. Or like they do all right despite how good they are. And then the other two with Fantastic Four and Superman, those two movies, especially Superman, but I think Fantastic Four is probably just as important. If those bomb, that could change like everything for DC and Marvel. DC is going to have to completely like rework their plans more than likely. Because if your Superman film fails and it doesn't live up to expectations, there's no way your Supergirl film is going to be doing better, right?
Right. 100%.
And then the question of what becomes of like Matt Reeves as Batman at that point. Do they all of a sudden fast track that? Because there's all of this like news going around about what's actually happening there, and apparently like there's some beef with like Matt Reeves and why is his name slipping my mind? The guy that did Suicide Squad.
James
Gunn, yeah. Like there's some stuff going on there. The whole thing's kind of a mess anyway. Like if you were going to clean slate it, you should have just clean slated it instead of being like, well, we're going to keep some of this and then we're going to not keep these other things. But then Matt Reeves can do one more Batman movie, and if it doesn't do well, then that'll get scrapped. Like it's just weird the way that they're handling everything.
Yeah. So if I understand correctly, the Matt Reeves Batman movie, it does not take place in James Gunn's DC, right?
No, apparently that's not the case. But then like he brought over he brought over sorry, I only watched like one episode of that show because I didn't like it that much. The John Cena Peacemaker. So Peacemaker's like coming over. Yep. There was some other stuff that they announced,
which is crazy because Peacemaker's coming over, but that also means that Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman exists, and Jason Momoa as Aquaman exists.
Yeah,
because they made appearances in the Peacemaker show.
Yeah, allegedly they're gonna like just shoo that away a little bit, you know. Like, oh, like, you know, he went through a portal or something. You know what I mean? They're going to do something dumb if it works out. I actually think that them casting or recasting Jason Momoa as Lobo works pretty well. Like, I could definitely see that, you know?
He looks like Lobo looks in the comics.
Yeah, like
naturally.
With the makeup and, like, a bunch of stuff. I mean, he'd probably make a really, really good Lobo. It's just weird because it's like, are people gonna be like into that? Like it feels like the whole thing. We were at a point in like 2013 where people were willing to accept the talking raccoon and the talking tree and this weird stuff happening in space. And I thought like, wow, like things are changing, you know? Like we're getting more. Oh, you know what, dude? I never changed the background for this episode. I'm just looking at this now.
I've just been looking at Harrison Ford. trying to do something. I don't know what he's doing.
Bruh, that's him hulking out.
No, I trust me. I know what he's really doing, but
Dude, apparently he was like super high at that convention. And that's how they got him to do that. Oh, here it is.
good for
Okay.
him.
I'm gonna
Good for him.
change this out real quick.
Victor, I think the next live action Disney movie is Lilo and Stitch.
I
And
believe so.
then
Mm-hmm.
and then they're also remaking or doing a live action Moana as well. But of course, they couldn't get creative, so they just have The Rock playing the same character that he played in the cartoon. So,
Yeah, I
I don't
don't.
know.
Hmm.
And then according to this list, they're remaking Hercules in live action, Robin Hood, which was a bunch of animals, so that's going to be interesting.
What
The
are,
Aristocats,
Robin Hood gets made like every couple of years, so I think that's a
right?
little weird for them to
But if
just.
if it's if it's a live action remake of the Disney Robin Hood, then Robin Hood is a fox.
Is it
Little John is a bear.
is it just gonna be more like soulless Lion King looking?
Then supposedly the Aristocats, Bambi, and then Tangled.
Interesting.
So I 100% agree with Victor. Disney should go back to traditional animation.
Disney doesn't have any creativity anymore.
Nope. They've lost
It,
whatever
it
they had. They lost.
yeah, it's like zero.
Hmm.
And I just don't. Yeah, they just feel like, and we'll talk about it a little bit with Daredevil because obviously like Marvel falls under their banner, but it's how I feel about like a lot of their stuff. It's like it just feels either soulless or like mostly soulless.
I think a lot of it to me is someone has to analyze what happened to CGI over the past 20 years.
It got too expensive.
It may be, but 20 years ago, CGI looked pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
go back to as a great example is go back to the Pirates of the Caribbean movie that had Davy Jones in it, where he was like an
Yeah.
octopus, and he's playing that piano. Like you're like, that looks awesome.
Uh huh. Yeah.
And you go now and you look at these dwarves in this picture, and you're like, I feel like a
Ugh.
high schooler. I feel like a high schooler made those in like a computer class as a
Yep.
side project.
Yeah, and yeah, it's a couple things. It's like a lot of that stuff has gotten more expensive, and then the turnaround times have gotten really bad for people too. And there's it's hard to tell sometimes when you see articles or like people reporting on stuff where you're like, I don't know how true this really is, but allegedly like Marvel pays people like pennies for the stuff that they make. And it's so interesting to me. I guess there's still a lot of people that are in those industries that they just don't have what it takes to walk away.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what else am I supposed to do? And it sucks, man. I've thought about this a lot. And it sucks to kind of like say this, but it's like, well, listen, like if you're incredibly talented at something like that and you can't make a living doing it, maybe you need to change careers for a while, or like some people are really good at shifting into other like avenues of using something like that. But maybe this whole like trying to like do the Hollywood thing, and it's always been so interesting to me with these. It'd be interesting to talk to somebody who's been like super involved in it. But it's like, dude, like at what point do you kind of just have to like wave the white flag and be like, all right, I gotta figure something out, because these companies go under like all the time. Like famously, I think it was the company that did all of the like CG work for Life of Pi. They like won an Academy Award for that, and then they went out of business like the next day. And you're like, guys, like it's just not. I mean, if you're cool with it and that's just the way you want to do things, like, go for it. For me though, I'm like, man, stability is nice, and at like what point, I don't know if it's like one of those things that you kind of age out of those industries. You start getting into your 30s and you're like, dang, I'd kind of like to have steady income and maybe meet a nice girl.
I think that's part of it, but I think that there's just no like pioneers in the industry anymore.
Sure.
Like, you go back to like the animation of the early Disneys or even like the 90s, right? You had talent and you had these people who were able to do things that no one had ever done before. Now it's just it's similar to what you were talking about earlier with all these like Gen Zers who can shred on a guitar but can't write a song.
Yeah.
Like they learn the technical stuff, but they have no like passion or desire
Yeah.
to like do something special. They just are like, hey, I know how to make a dwarf.
Yeah.
Cool, but I'm not gonna like make it look great. I'm just gonna make this dwarf
And it's
in the movie.
it's uh kind of twofold, like because you definitely need people like that. Like I think if I was making a film, I would want my DP, the director of photography. Um, I'd want them to kind of be very technical in everything that they do. Like obviously,
Yep.
but it again, you're right. There is you can be technical, but you need to understand like sort of the emotion behind the things that you're doing too. Like I can't remember who it was, but I heard somebody say this where they were like, you have talent, but like can you pull any kind of emotion out of your audience with that talent?
Yeah.
Or is it just like, oh wow, and then like they move on because there's a million people that can go, like, or someone can point a camera, they can get good lighting, and you go, wow, that looks really pretty, but it's like, what's the point, And I feel like with a lot of modern stuff, that's how I feel. Like people be like all the time, they're like, oh, well, this was like this, and oh, it was so great. I saw someone recently who, it was today, I think. I was scrolling through X, and it was this scene from there's this show on Apple TV, Severance.
Yeah, everybody's talking about
Everybody's
it. I
talking
haven't
about
seen it
Severance.
yet.
And it was this scene, and it was well done. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's nothing against the show. I haven't watched the show yet. But someone, the guy was like, oh, this is like the peak of cinema. Like, they don't do things like this anymore. And someone was replying to it, and it was like, they're like, it must be really nice being a normie, where it's like everything that you see literally brings out like these emotions in you all the time. Because this happened, dude. I'm telling you, it's like the number of people on the internet where they'll be like, this is like peak cinema. This is the best thing ever. And it's just like, I saw one the other day, and again, some of these people could be messing around, like trying to troll. Engagement farming is huge right now on the internet. But it was like a picture from the most recent Captain America movie. And it was like Sam Wilson, and he's standing in front of a car, and the car is like backlighting him with its lights. And they were like, it doesn't get much better than this. And I'm just going like, oh no. It's like, if they really believe this, like, we're done, dude. It's over. We had a good run. Like, there's no hope anymore. Cause like, I remember, the movie Serenity?
Yes,
It's
it's
the
it's the Firefly movie.
Yes.
Yep.
There's a scene in it, and it was the thing that kind of, I think I was a teenager when I saw that, and in theaters, and there's a scene after like a pretty horrific thing happens to one of the main cast members, that they like go to get him, and when they get there, like everybody's pretty much been killed and everything's on fire. And River is kind of like wandering around, and the way that the shot is like set up, it's like she's standing there and there's a swing, and the swing's on fire, and she's framed in between the ropes of the swing. And I remember seeing that as like pretty young and just being like, holy crap. I was like, I love this stuff. Like just like the technical details and like what is it being implied by like a lot of the stuff that's going on in that. And it's not like the best shot that I've ever seen in my entire life, but it like meant something to me at the time. And then you see someone be like, hey, this scene of Sam Wilson standing in front of a car, like that's like amazing. And you're like, oh no. That's like where that comes from for me, because you're just like,
Yeah,
Uh,
I do think that there are some really talented people doing cinematography
sure.
right now, but I don't think that the same level of talent is existing in these live action remakes
No.
or on
No.
the CGI stuff.
I I mean, obviously you've got like Godzilla minus one. You
Hmm.
know, that's recent.
And it
Um
goes back to your argument that sometimes the lower budget movies are doing things that are way outclassing the bigger budget
oh
movies.
dude, I someone said, I think it was it with it was either with the new Captain America or with Snow White, that you could make like 38 uh Godzilla minus ones on that budget, which is crazy. It's so funny. The budget for Godzilla minus one, I feel like it fluctuates all, like no one is 100% sure. Like it's gone from like 12 million to like 15 million to like 21 million. Like no one's 100% nailing where it is. Regardless, it did not cost them a lot of money to make that movie. And I think, I think everyone realizes how impressive that is when they've seen it, and that we need more of that. But yeah, there's plenty of stuff. It's semi-modern stuff. I still sort of feel like after 2019 things really got weird. 2019 was like the last year I actually cared about the Oscars. A lot of good stuff came out in 2019. You had The Lighthouse, Jojo Rabbit, Parasite, 1917. There was like, I mean, I'm sure I could look up a list and find some more stuff from then that was great.
2019 was a good year.
Yeah, and
For movies.
everything since then. I mean, like Ford v Ferrari came out that year too. Like a lot of the stuff that came out and got nominated at the Oscars was like excellent stuff. And everybody just freaking lost their minds after that or something. Just something happened, and I don't know if it's just like a delay in like the processes, and so a lot of the but like talent wise, it just feels like everything like dropped off a cliff, and it's really weird, really really weird. All right, let's talk about Daredevil. Oh, I guess we could talk about Assassin's Creed for like a minute, and then Daredevil. Have you been keeping
Oh
up
wait,
with? Have you been
is
keeping
there a
up with
new
that at all?
Assassin's Creed game?
Bro, yeah, you didn't know? Okay. I threw it.
I've seen some stuff on like on the Twitter or on X, whatever you want to call it these days, that was just showing like how again it goes back to like they were showing scenes like clips from Assassin's Creed 2
Mhm.
and comparing it to this and like how much more you could move around in Assassin's Creed
Ooh.
2 than you could in this game. Or like there was one where it's like the person in the new one in Shadows was trying to climb a tree and they couldn't get up the tree, right? But they did an alternate shot of like one of the older Assassin's Creed game, and it's like the dude shimmying up the tree all over. Every part of the tree is climbable,
Hmm.
and it was obviously a tree you're supposed to be able to climb in Shadows.
Yeah.
So I know it's not doing well. I know that there was some controversy, I guess, with the fact that one of the main characters in the game is a black man, but whatever.
Yusuke. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't it's one of those games that like I haven't cared about Assassin's Creed. I played Origins at one point and was kind of like, it was like fine, it's
Yep.
same old Ubisoft slop for the most part. You're just checking off boxes.
Yep.
And I remember enjoying it for the most part. It's not really something I was thinking too deeply about. But yeah, I haven't really, excuse me, haven't really played any of them since then. I think
Black Flag was the last one I played.
I got the one that was set in like, it was doing like Greek stuff. I think I played it for like
Odyssey.
I think I played it for a couple hours and was like, eh. I was like, I'm good. So yeah, but there's been a lot of controversy about this one, and it finally came out, and I guess you could say there's still some controversy because it keeps getting like hyped up by all these outlets and everyone. I've seen articles where people are like, don't listen to the haters, just play the game. People giving it like pretty good reviews. And then Ubisoft coming out and saying that at one point it's like, oh, there's like 1 million players. And then they're like, oh, there's 2 million players. And then everyone's like, okay, what about sales numbers though? Because players, we all kind of know like there's some weird stuff that you can play around with numbers. Like you can lie with numbers pretty easily. Like you can say there's like 2 million players, but then it's like, what does that mean? Is that 2 million sales?
Yeah.
Is that 2 million sales at $70 plus a pop? Like what are we?
If it is, yeah, if that is good for them.
Yeah. Like what are we talking about here? And I tend to fall on the side, and it's because I'm cynical a little bit. But if you're not telling me that like your sales numbers are really good, like if you're not bragging about that, that means something's off. Because you're giving me a number, and that number is big. I mean, 2 million's a big number. But then like, does that mean that it's really successful? Like, is Ubisoft saved? Are they not going to get sold out at this point? Because the game, I haven't played it, but like I watched some people play it, watch a couple reviews, and everyone is kind of like, it's Assassin's Creed. And I'm like, all right, I was like, I wasn't really interested anyway. I was watching some people play it. It's kind of buggy. There's a lot of like funny stuff that happens where they'll have like people chasing the character around, and then they like go prone and into a bush, and they're like, where'd they go?
Yep. That was one of the other videos I saw. It was like you lay down and they start hacking at you, and then they can't hit you because you're laying on the ground.
Yeah. And
which stuff like that is all fixable if
course.
it's just, like just buggy stuff. But
that, and so yeah, but it's I look at it and I'm like, I'm not paying $70 for this.
No.
You know?
I look at a lot of games these days and say that, unfortunately.
Yeah. I've been having so much fun just playing Ocarina of Time. Like, and I was watching a video about Conker's Bad Fur Day the other day, and I was like, I think I'm going to play that soon, too. I'm going to do Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and then I think I'm going to play Conkers. Because I don't know. I've been, like, super nostalgic recently, and I've realized part of it is because, like, there's certain things are reliable, you know? They're proven product or, like, proven entertainment. Like, I know I'm going to go back and I'm going to play Ocarina of Time, and I'm going to enjoy it because I've always enjoyed playing it, right? I know if I sit down and watch The Prestige, even if I've seen it 1 million times, I'm still going to really enjoy it.
Fantastic movie.
Yes.
Hope that's on your list.
It is. It is. We talked about it last week, actually. It was really funny because Joseph and I were talking about it, and then we got to that segment. I did it at the end, and it was the first thing he picked. I was like, oh, actually, it's The Prestige. Love it. It's the movie that I put on here as like definitively this is the Christopher Nolan movie that you need to watch. I have left a little room for Inception because I need to go back and watch it again. It's been a little while since I've seen it. It'll probably end up on the list anyway. But I was like, all right, if I'm picking one Christopher Nolan movie to show somebody, what movie is it going to be? And I was like, it's The Prestige.
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
So, yeah, man, it's a weird thing with gaming in general right now is kind of weird. I don't buy like a ton of new games anymore, and if I do, I don't buy them at full price anymore. I wait for them to go on sale. I'm
having a hard time even like buying some of them on sale. Like I really want to go back and play the original Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah.
Now that it's like on PC and has been remastered or whatever they're calling it, but even it's like they want $50 for that game.
Yeah, a game that came out in what 2009, 10,
something like that, and then they put it on sale for 20% off. And I said, ooh, and then I looked and I'm like, oh god, it's still $39.99. Like, I'm not dropping $40 on a game that I've already beaten 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was like, emulation has been like really cool. So I've thought about like dipping my toes into that a little bit more. I had like they're talking about like you can mod like a Wii U or there's a couple different consoles that they were saying like you can mod to like actually like rip your games onto your computer to have like legal copies of them so that you can do like the emulation properly. And I was like, okay. I was like, I'll get around to that. I was like,
Yep.
how do I get Ocarina of Time right now though? um, but yeah, so I've been kind of looking into that a little bit because people are doing some incredible stuff. Like the version of Ocarina of Time that I've got, it's 1080p, 60 frames. There's a couple quality of life things that they did with it, and it's just really cool to see this. And then like all these big companies, dude, it's like they just like refuse to put stuff out that would make them money. And everyone's looking at them. Like Sony's like a big example of this right now because Bloodborne just had its 10-year anniversary.
Yep.
And everyone's like, "Can you please give us like a high frame rate version of this game?"
Please.
Like
Yeah.
they're like, "We don't need
I'd go back and play it.
yeah, or like we don't need a remake or anything like that. Literally just give us like a higher frame rate. Please." And they're just like, "No. Here's Days Gone though. Do you want that?" Everyone's like, "What?" Oh man, so it's been kind of a wild it's been interesting watching a lot of this stuff. And then
I just don't get. I don't get the need to understand like remastering a game that's not even like 10 years old yet.
yeah. Well,
You know,
it makes for that it makes sense because everyone's like the game doesn't even run at like a solid 30 frames sometimes. Like it could use like some serious quality of life updates. And if they're gonna do it at this point, like if they're gonna spend the time doing it, they're gonna want to make like money off of it. So they're gonna have to put some sort of like remaster out, even if that means like it's like 4K and like you can run it at 60 or 1080 at like higher frame rates if your monitor television allows for that. That's all people really want, and that's what I tell people all the time with like the Switch 2 coming out. Really anything, I'm like, guys, I don't really even need 4K. Like if you give me 1080 with high frame rates, like I'll be happy.
Yep.
Like I'm not complicated in that sense. Like graphics, people talk about graphics all the time now, and they're like, look at all the detail, blah blah. And I'm just kind of like, okay. I was like, is it fun though? Like
I'm with you. High frame rate is definitely way better than 4K.
yeah, like what are we doing? It's and this isn't the show for it, but I went back. I told you know this, but I beat the first Last of Us on the hardest difficulty about a month or so ago. I will never play that game on anything other than normal for the rest of my life.
because it was so frustrating.
Dude, the mechanics in that fall apart on the harder difficulties. The issues in that game become very apparent. Not story-wise, really. I still really like the story, but from a gameplay perspective, it doesn't hold up. It's frustrating. Like you end up relying on these sort of like goofy mechanics in order to like get through it, and there's a little bit of like RNG, a little too much RNG that's involved with like, okay, you die, maybe when you kill this guy he'll give you ammo this time, but like if he doesn't, you might not even be able to get past this like section.
Yep.
It's rough. The dam at when you meet Tommy and you're trying to escape from the dam in that part, it's literally just so it's rage inducing how bad that is. And then some of the stuff in the hospital at the very end was pissing me off a little bit too. Just because like the way that like stuff's set up and like you have these sneaking mechanics, but then like the sneaking mechanics are all only so good for you, Like you can't really run like stealth in that game properly. There's not like routes that you can take, or you're like waiting for enemies. It's it definitely falls apart a little bit when you actually start paying attention to it because you're trying to get through it in one piece. It's frustrating. All right, let's talk about Daredevil. Justin, you're caught up with the 4 episodes so far?
Yep, I've seen all 4 of the episodes.
How do you feel about it?
So I feel like it's still better than most of the Marvel shows that they put out.
Yeah. Not a high bar.
I No, it's not a high bar. I feel like the first episode was probably its best episode of the season. Um,
Yeah, I might agree with you on that.
but
Which
only probably because we had that really cool scene at the beginning
because he's
that
actually in his
involved,
suit.
yeah, where he's in the suit and he's fighting Bullseye, and they're doing more like the hallway shots that, kind of made it
Right.
the show. Um,
Can you hear my eyes visibly rolling?
yeah, I can. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure that they didn't just fall out the back of your head.
Not yet.
I
Just
I'm not really digging the pacing, right?
agreed.
If I as a complaint, because I get that he's, without really spoiling, the big event in the first episode, I get that he's kind of processing that and dealing
Well,
with it.
let's hang on. Pause for just a second. Well, let's just say it right now. Spoilers for the first 4 episodes of Daredevil Born Again, because we can't really talk about a lot of that stuff without talking about what happens at the beginning of the first episode. And to be honest, if you haven't watched the first episode at this point, do you really care that much? Because it's had to have been spoiled,
Right.
dude.
At this
What
point.
What happens in episode 3 literally got spoiled for me as soon as it aired. And not that it matters to me all that much, other than being like, well, that was kind of stupid.
Yeah. What a wasted plot line.
Yeah, we'll get there. But
Wasted character, but
so what happens? What is
well,
what should have
so
been?
in the very first episode, Foggy Nelson gets killed.
Yeah.
Right. So there's our big spoiler. Now I'll bring that up later. I'll bring up a part of that later. But so he gets killed, and then basically Daredevil goes through like a spiral.
Yeah.
From it. Struggling to deal with it. He gets rid of all of his friends. He doesn't want anything to do. He disavows Daredevil because he went over his rule line, his Batman rule line. I don't kill people.
Yeah.
And tried to kill Bullseye by throwing him off the roof.
Now, I'm gonna just interject quickly here, and then I'll let you keep going. All of these things pretty much happen off screen.
Right.
Because it ends with Foggy's death, and then we jump to like a year later, and all of that stuff has already happened. So we don't get to see any of it,
Nope.
Which I have a problem with. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. So and then from there, just kind of rolls into just a slow burn of a season where, Kingpin is kind of depressing.
Yeah.
I mean, you watch the first 3 seasons, and Vincent D'Onofrio is doing a great job overall.
I like him. He always does. Yeah, he's always like.
But in the first 3 seasons, this dude was like a physical menace. He took no crap from anybody. He could rip frickin' car doors off. He could flip over 1,000-pound concrete tables.
Yeah, he was strong. I mean, they want to. Yeah, he literally takes a dude's head off with a car door like real early on in season 1. It's like that. That's one of the things that set him up. Like when people think about him in those early seasons, that's one of the scenes that they think about because they know they set him up so that this is not a guy that you mess with.
Right.
Like he has no problem killing you.
And so, at the end of, I guess it was, again, didn't watch it, but I think at the end of Echo, as it ends, he's watching TV and realizing that the New York mayor race is available.
Oh, can I hang on. Let's back up just a little bit if we're
Okay.
going to talk about him because there's 2 specific things. So
All right, go ahead.
Marvel neutered Kingpin not once but twice. He gets beat by Kate Bishop at the end of Hawkeye.
Yep.
Never should have happened. I talked about this years ago when that show aired. There is not a chance that Kate Bishop should have come out of that interaction alive.
No, I agree.
And then not only does that happen, but then Echo shoots him
in the face.
And then somehow he survives that. Whatever. It's like, this plays in. This is all important because it plays into Daredevil Born Again. Because regardless of whether you want to like count those things as canon. Marvel considers them canon. And then in Echo, he just gets emasculated even more and completely just turns into this like bumbling idiot, and like he's like Echo's supposed to be like the daughter he never had, or and he gives this whole like sob story. And Joseph and I think Joseph actually watched Echo. I'm pretty sure he did. But there's a specific scene where he explains all of this, and in a different show and with the right context, it actually could work as a motivational thing for him, because despite the fact of like who Wilson Fisk is, like, and all of the awful things that he's done, he does have his own sort of like moral center and the things that he cares. I don't know if the moral center is like the best way to put it, but he has certain things that he cares about.
Right, and he'll defend.
Yeah. And so like family's like obviously really important to him. And so it could work with better writing, and if all that stuff in Hawkeye hadn't already happened, but they just treated him like crap, and then they bring him back into this, and we're just supposed to be like, yeah, it's him again. Sorry, go ahead.
So he essentially becomes the mayor of New York City.
Yeah.
Right. But in doing so, it's weird because I feel like there's more to it than we're being shown right now. At least the optimist in me wants to believe that there's more to it.
You mentioned that to me, and I was trying to keep that in mind while watching those episodes. And then there is something that happens at the end of episode 4 that I think, to a degree, gives credence to like your theory about this, but we kind of have to wait and see at this point.
I guess I just don't understand what his, they're not doing a good job of making it obvious what his game plan is by becoming the mayor.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. So what's his motive at this point? Like you would think,
right? It can help him run his other businesses. That's basically the only thing that you can kind of gather from it. But it almost seems like he doesn't really care about any of that stuff anymore. He's letting his wife, girlfriend run it, but also doesn't want her doing anything that would affect him being the mayor. It's just, he seems like a different person, like a different character. Like all of a sudden that gunshot to the head was like, oh, my violent nature's gone. I can control it now. And I want to be a good guy.
Yeah. Yeah. The show, I feel like, so there's a lot of reshoots. We're getting, so tonight after we finish the show, actually it's airing. It started airing, or it released about half an hour ago from when we're talking about this. We're getting episode 5 and 6, so we'll be halfway done with the series at this point. And allegedly, Murdoch is finally supposed to get back in the Daredevil suit in 5 or 6. I don't know which one it's going to happen in. Obviously, they were kind of building that up. But yeah, man, the whole thing, it's felt kind of choppy to me, which makes sense considering what we know about like the reshoots,
the rewrites, the writers' strike, all that stuff. Yeah.
It's definitely okay. So as I understand them needing to do that, and then they were trying to keep some of this early stuff. I have to imagine their numbers are bad, because it is these first 4 episodes, barring what happens at the beginning of that, and even some of that I'm not a fan. Like the whole Foggy and Karen thing was a terrible decision.
Right.
They have already talked about how it's not like Foggy's not dead because he's coming.
Yeah, so he's supposed to show up in season 2.
Right. They already like announced that he and Karen. I think Karen's supposed to show back up this season.
Right.
But yeah, they're gonna do some comic book magic to bring him back.
So comic book magic, yes, but it's actually, there is a comic book that where Foggy Nelson fakes his death.
Oh.
Right. So that is all actually happened.
After he got shot in the chest and bled out on the street.
So the argument is that Bullseye doesn't ever aim for the chest. He always aims for the head.
And he missed?
No, that he purposefully shot him in the chest. But why Foggy would need to fake his death, it doesn't make sense right now. Like you don't know enough of a backstory to understand why he would. So it's falling flat if that's what it is.
Yeah.
And it's going to be one of those things. If he appears back up, it's just going to be weird, right?
Yeah.
Um, so the big rumor was that he was actually going to be the Atom. So like Wilson Fisk Adam, the one who supposedly had an affair with Vanessa,
Yeah.
that Foggy was going to actually be Adam and he was keeping him hostage.
Wow.
But we
Doesn't
found out at
look
the end of it. Yeah,
yeah.
it's not him.
It's not
So
him.
it's somebody else. Yeah.
I Muse kind of looked cool though. I will say that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm scraping around for stuff to say that I liked about the show. Some of it. So it was nice to see Frank Castle.
Yep.
Always, it just made me realize, like, man, we should have gotten more of that.
Yep. And
And
we'll see him more this season.
he's in
Hopefully.
more of the
The,
season.
the question that I'm gonna have is, are they gonna? I mean, because that original Netflix show, it might not have been like hard R, but it was pretty violent and very
Oh, dude,
bloody.
I would say it was pretty hard R, especially,
And
dude, season 2. A character they show a character getting their fingernails ripped out.
oh yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a lot. I think if you went back and watched it again, you'd be like, holy mo! I don't know, like, language wise, but like violence. That show was incredibly violent. I
And
think
obviously Disney's not going to let that happen
no, and
anymore.
dude, the guy who's like the showrunner for this was like gassing it up really hard. Um, and he was like, "Oh, it's gonna be way better than the original show," and saying all this. And I'm watching it so far, and I'm like, dude, I just don't think you're right. I'm not seeing whatever you were seeing. Because you have, like we were saying, like the stuff with Bullseye and Daredevil, passable despite how it ends. Not a fan of that. I don't like this whole thing where they did like a year skip. You could have
Right.
you could have written season 1 of this could have been like, all right, let's say you're going to keep the Foggy stuff. It's season 1 is Matt dealing with that, the drama that causes with Karen Page.
Yep. Yep.
The you have Fisk re-entering the scene, running for mayor, and the drama between him and Matt. So like that scene that happens in the diner in episode 1.
Yeah.
I think it was episode 1. You can leave something like that in there, but the whole like driving force and the motivation for Fisk in season 1 could have been trying to become mayor, and Matt realizing like he obviously he's got other motivations behind that, and you could keep that like running, and there's a lot of stuff that you could do with that. And they're like, nah, we're not going to do any of that. Instead, what we're going to do is have that opening scene. We're going to skip to a year later. We're getting rid of 2 of the most popular characters from the show. We're going to bring in all these other characters that you definitely don't care about. They're not going to be well developed. And then we're going to do a courtroom drama episode. And then we're going to do whatever the heck episode 4 was. And at the very end, Punisher's going to show up.
Right.
And they're going to talk, and you're going to be like, oh, man, this kind of reminds me of the scene up on the roof where Matt was chained up. And then that's kind of it. And I've just been like, okay. The stuff with White Tiger fell flat.
It did. It's a shame. It's a shame though, because he was somewhat interesting, but for them to do what they did to him so quickly,
Oof, yeah.
it was like they were going for the shock factor, but you're just kind of like, well, wait a second, what does this amulet do? Like what? Like
Yeah.
show me him doing something. Why was he such a pushover?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, he gets murked so easily,
yeah,
dude. It's
just gets
it was a terrible. And okay, so the guy who played him passed away.
Yep.
And I feel like, okay, so I have always been, this is pretty much like definitively my stance. Like it's not like I can't be moved depending on the case on this, but anytime an actor or actress dies, and it potentially is going to affect the show, I'm always like, please just recast them. Let everyone know what happened. Like treat the situation like with respect, but just recast if it's something that's going to help with it, right? So Chadwick, Joseph and I talked about this a couple years ago when Chadwick Boseman died, and
Yep.
they decided not to recast him for Black Panther, and I'm like, why? And they're like, well, it's out of respect, and it's like, well, you can respect him and still recast him. It's not as if he is the only person that could ever play that role. Like I'm kind of like sympathetic to that other side with it, but at the same time, I'm like, guys, you can't have a Black Panther movie without Black Panther, you know?
They went from having the Black Panther movie, the original, with Michael B. Jordan, being one of their most popular movies, to the sequel being terrible.
Yeah.
Like, it was not well received, and it's because Black Panther is a very popular character.
Yeah.
And for them, you saw it changed the trajectory of the Marvel movies pretty drastically.
Yeah, Black Panther.
And they definitely should have just recasted him, or they should have done some resurrection crap in Wakanda, and Michael B. Jordan came back as him. Something.
Yeah. We talked about how it's like it could have been interesting. Listen, you've already got like the multiverse going on. Just bring Michael B. Jordan back from like a different timeline and make him Black Panther if he's willing to do it. People liked him. Michael B. Jordan is like very charismatic. He could definitely play the role, and people would have been fine with it. And Black Panther 2 might have actually been successful had that been the case. But they decided not to do that, and it wasn't. And it's completely forgotten at this point. Nobody. Have you seen Black Panther 2?
No.
Okay. I could barely at this point give you a breakdown of what that movie was.
I know that the Marvel version of Aquaman was in that movie.
Yes, and the whole movie works because for some reason cameras don't exist in the 21st century. That's why that movie works. Okay, where were we? Oh, so the actor died, and I don't know if that scene had already been filmed beforehand, but to be honest, it feels more disrespectful to have that character go out like that. And I know what they were going for because it's a shock factor thing. That's like the showrunner had talked about this before. He's like, oh, we're gonna do some shocking things in the season, and I like watched it, and a part of me's like, I'm not even sure I'm convinced that White Tiger wouldn't have seen that coming. Like, that guy literally comes out of nowhere and like shoots him in the head, and I'm like, wasn't the amulet supposed to give him like enhanced abilities?
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't he have had? I mean, obviously we don't know. Like, we're given no information about it. Like, which again would have been nice.
His whole character was just rushed.
Yeah.
There's a little bit more to it though, because again, there is some comic book references, like comic book lore to all of this, and in the comic books, he does die.
Right.
The same guy, and then his niece becomes the new White Tiger.
Yeah.
Who we meet. So that's obviously the setup, but
sure,
they didn't need to rush him out of the show that quickly.
No.
They could have helped it.
And like I said, if they had started, instead of skipping a year, they had started right there, and White Tiger is on the scene, and we're kind of learning about him, and he, obviously maybe he doesn't get arrested until season 2.
Yep.
It that could have worked, but sorry. Where was I? Oh, yeah. I mean, like but you needed a lot of build-up. You needed a lot of setup for like what they were trying to do. And we just didn't get that. And so we got another underdeveloped character that, like, I think you're supposed to feel something when he dies. And I was like, oh, okay.
But I don't know anything about him.
Yeah, and then and now we've pretty much just moved on. And his niece or whatever will inevitably like pick up the role, because I think there's even a couple shots from later in the season where it looks like White Tiger's back, so she's like,
yep,
put on the mask or whatever. And I have to appreciate the fact that they at least set up the fact that the amulet gives you like special abilities, because if they were just like, if that wasn't the case and she's like, I'm just putting on the suit, she's like maybe 5 foot, maybe
Yeah.
weighs 80 pounds. Like they had to pick the smallest girl possible
Yep.
for the role. I don't know what is up with Marvel doing this. They did the same thing in the new Captain America movie. Pick the smallest lady ever to have, and then she has a scene in it where she's like beating the crap out of all these people. And it was like,
Haven't seen that one either, so
yeah, dude, don't. It's terrible. It's not worth the time.
I've kind of checked out on the Marvel
Yeah.
movies,
Listen,
unfortunately.
I'll let you know if there's ever one that turns out to be all right. But there, I mean, I think No Way Home was probably the last time I was actually decently impressed with something.
That might be the last one that I've seen, actually.
Yeah, and it's the Sony movie, so it barely counts, you know. But yeah, man, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Okay, so episode 4, there's a scene, and I'm these are mostly out of I won't say out of context, but like it doesn't really. It's not the most important thing, but there's a scene where Murdoch is going to try to get a client's sentence reduced. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And he has to go into the room, and he's talking to this lady named Sophia, who I don't think we've seen before. It is insane to me that is one of the scenes that I found to be like the best acted so far in the show. And it's him and a lady we've never seen before, and they have like chemistry. And like I actually think he has more chemistry with her than he does with the actress who's playing his like girlfriend right now.
Yep.
Like she was like very emotive, and they had really good like banter back and forth with each other. And I was like, all right. I was like, yeah, this is not awful. And then she's like watching him when he's like walking away. She's like kind of looking him up and down or whatever. And I was like, all right. I was like, that's kind of I was like, I can appreciate that. It's like this feels like for whatever reason it works. And then this, like, I think I mentioned it already, but the stuff with Punisher was good. So hopefully at least that keeps up.
His character. I mean, John Bernthal's a pretty decent actor, and he's the same.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem like he's changed. But what I find interesting though, so the last time Daredevil and Punisher had any interaction whatsoever was when Punisher saved his life on that rooftop.
Yeah.
Well, right, and
yeah, he shoots the ninjas and then like disappears into the night.
Right, and he's like, "See you around, Red."
Yeah.
And you know, but obviously Murdoch has been keeping tabs on him. He knew right where to go to find him. I mean, a blind dude walking through whatever he was, a sewer, whatever. He went right to him like it was nothing.
Yep.
I wonder. He's been keeping tabs on him somehow.
And again, that's something that would have kind of been interesting to see.
Right.
Like their original, like maybe over the past like that year gap that was there, they ran into each other again. Or there's like, because I think the time between. I feel like I read this somewhere that the time between season 3 of the Netflix show and then the beginning of the Born Again series is like 7 years.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Also, I don't believe that Kingpin or Matt Murdock were blipped. I think that I saw that somewhere too. So they didn't disappear.
They weren't even a part of that universe until this got announced. Like that,
true.
Remember, Marvel like completely disowned the Netflix shows for the longest time, and everyone's like, "Bro, but Daredevil's good. Like, what are y'all doing?"
Well, I think the only reason is because in I guess in the one of the shows, Hawkeye is back as Ronin and kills somebody. I can't remember which one. It was either the Hawkeye one with Kate Bishop or it was Echo. I think it might have been Echo, but whatever it was, she sees Ronin kill her uncle or something like that, and that occurs during the blip.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And Kingpin directed it. He's the one who had that happen.
That's right. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I think that that must have been in Echo. Like early on in Echo.
Whichever was the show she shot him in the face.
Oh
because
well, then that
she
would have
shot
been
him in the
Hawkeye. That would have been Hawkeye then. Oh
yeah.
yeah, she
So
is in that. It's been a very long time since I've seen Hawkeye. Like that show I think came out at least 2 years ago, if not longer than that.
mhm,
Um, Man, that was like really early on when Joseph and I were doing the podcast.
yeah. So
Um,
I don't know where they're going with the rest of the season. Maybe I think you had said to me when we were talking earlier that they had originally filmed like 6 episodes, so they're basically working off of those 6 episodes with some reshoots,
mm-hmm.
and then they'll get to the new stuff. And one thing that I did read was that John Bernthal said he was not going to come back as the Punisher with the way that they were writing the show.
Yeah, I heard
He
that.
said he says I refuse to come back. That is not who the Punisher is. It's not how I want to act as him. I will not do it. And so whatever rewriting that they've done brought him back. He said, "Okay, great, I'll come back." So we're getting to the point where that terrible stuff that probably was going to be even worse than what we're watching right now
Yeah.
is over. Maybe we'll get into some better stuff, better pacing, more interesting story. I don't know. They're calling this Daredevil Born Again, but it really isn't following that
No,
comic at all.
season 3 was actually closer of the Netflix show was actually closer to Daredevil Born Again than this is. A lot of people have been calling this Daredevil Born Again.
Yeah,
Like
I've heard that. So and Daredevil Born Again, that comic was awesome.
yeah.
Like it's one of probably the top 10 Marvel comics of all time.
My plan
And
my plan is to have it read before the end of this series cuz we'll talk about it once. I'll have you back on when the show's over.
yeah, sure. So I'm gonna keep watching it. I'm hoping that there's stuff going on, maybe behind the scenes right now that they purposely withheld from us that we're gonna get. That's
Yeah.
gonna make some of this other stuff a little bit more tenable, a
I
little bit easier
yeah,
to like say, okay, now I get where that was coming from. But again, my hope for that is low because no one writes like that anymore.
yeah. And there, I hate to say it, but those first 4 episodes needed just a little bit more action in them.
Yes.
Even if it wasn't Daredevil, like White Tiger needed to be doing something, or maybe you needed to introduce Muse a little bit earlier. And that's why I said the pacing it feels so weird. Because like the episode 3, dude, it's literally like a crazy long courtroom drama that's really not that well written. And then White Tiger gets murked, and then the episode's pretty much over.
Was it episode 2 or episode 3 that he beats up those 2 cops at the end?
2, I think, if not 1.
So
Episode 1, I don't remember, but it was
I
1
think
or
no,
2.
I think it was episode 2.
Hmm.
Because yes, I think it was episode 2 because he's trying to find the guy who White Tiger had defended on the platform, and he gets to that dude's apartment, and then those 2 corrupt cops come in, and he beats the tar out of them. And the way that they show it in the episode, it looks like he killed both of them.
Hmm.
Right, like the way he slams the one guy into the table on
Oh,
his
yeah,
neck,
that is
and
episode
then how
2.
he like,
Mm-hmm.
and then how he body slams the other one, and his head goes sideways when he lands on the floor. I'm
Yeah.
like, now this could get really interesting because he just killed 2 cops. Like, how is he going to get away with this? And then, boom, next episode, the guy's just beat up, but he's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't it's a problem that shows have had for a while now where like even I mean this is like a problem that I think has always existed where you'll have your like action scene, and if you're not careful it can really take away from like what you're trying to do the rest of the time, because it's like that guy probably should be dead, or
Yeah.
at least partially paralyzed. Like he's not getting up and going to the courtroom the next day, more than likely.
And there he was,
Yeah.
still talking smack to Matt Murdock.
Yeah. Yeah, they're still
After he just got smoked by a blind dude.
yeah. And he's still like smart talking. I kind of liked that scene. And again, it's like these things are sort of unfortunately I have to kind of look at them like in a bubble, because I don't know if it's right now, at least I don't know if it's going anywhere, but where he confronts him again in the courtroom and he's trying to figure out if he's the one that killed White Tiger, and he's like listening to his heartbeat.
Yep.
And Matt's like, Just if you're gonna do it, make sure you bring more guys next time.
Yeah.
And like I'm not sure. It almost looks like Matt at the end is like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. To him. It's like you almost get this feeling of like, man, I might have, you know, bit off a little bit more than I can chew. Like saying that to that guy. So I have a feeling that'll, if they're smart, that'll come back up again. And I wouldn't be surprised if like it's Punisher like saves him. You know, like it's like way too many dudes.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see something like that here soon. Yeah. I mean, because it seems like all those people wearing like the Punisher either outfit or the tattoos or the bullet casing, is probably people on the police force, and they're probably like
they're
some
not
type
exactly.
Of like,
I was gonna say they're not exactly being subtle about it.
It's probably some type of like anti-vigilante thing. And they're basically, they've been told by Wilson Fisk to find vigilantes and kill them.
Yeah.
And that's probably where some of the twist is going to be, is that he is still, Kingpin is still telling people to running stuff behind the scenes, and still has all of his contacts and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Also shout out to James Gandolfini's son, because he's kind of a sniveling simp in this, but he's doing a good job playing that role. That's Kingpin's like young guy that works for him.
Yeah, I thought that was fine. Just like, I'm trying to find things to at least semi appreciate. And yeah,
I did appreciate the one scene where he was talking to that girl BB.
Yeah.
And she's related to Ben Urich, and he's like, your uncle was a good man. And I had completely forgotten that he had killed that guy.
Oh, dude, choked him out. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't even remember that. And I was just like, when I realized that, I was like, oh, okay, he's still pretty cold.
Yeah. And then pretty much right at the end when he it's like panning past like a painting or that wall, and there's like that blood streak on it, and then he's like eating the food, and the guy's like locked up. I'm like, all right. I'm like, okay. I was like, I'll check out the next 2 episodes. It's like just enough to be like, all right, let's see if they can ramp this up a little bit. Like I need the show to like really get moving, because it's kind of been a slog so far.
What are there's 9 episodes, right?
I heard 12.
See, I heard there were 2 seasons that they've already planned.
Well,
but I thought that there were 9 episodes in both. Is what I thought I had heard.
Well, so tonight is the mid-season. I saw something that was like it's the mid-season whatever, and we're getting 5 and 6 tonight.
So a quick Google shows 9 episodes for season 1.
Well, this isn't the mid then.
Yeah.
What are they talking about? All right. Well, whatever it's gonna be. That's almost too short, then, dude. That means he spent way too much time out of the suit this season.
Yeah, and then a second season is already planned.
Right. Well,
it has been confirmed. It will consist of 8 episodes. They are filming it currently, and it's going to air early to mid 2026.
Well, it might be, if these numbers don't improve, that might be it.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to renew it if it's getting these terrible numbers. It's time for them to put this stuff on ice for a while anyway.
And supposedly Jessica Jones also shows up in season 2.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
The Defenders.
So I mean, they have a chance to do something with this. We'll see. I'm gonna give them a little optimism, just a little optimism.
Yeah, it's a little too member berries. You know what I mean? Like, it just feels like this feels like Marvel, and it's like it feels very skinwalkery, like the way that the show works, kind of like what you were saying earlier, where they're like, well, the hallway fights and it's like there's bits of it that you're like, okay, this reminds me of that thing I really like. I was like, but I don't know how I feel about this. So, yeah, man, we'll see. But anything else?
That's kind of it for me. I think we'll have to definitely reconvene at the end of the season and see if we were right about any of our predictions, that it's maybe hiding some stuff that's going to make some of this a little bit more enjoyable.
Well, that is going to Probably, well, not quite, but let's see. So you said, let's see. So if there's 9 episodes, well, this might work out then. So we're probably gonna have you on for The Last of Us Part 2 stuff too, because that's April.
Yeah, and
Um,
I'll watch it. You know,
yeah. Apparently, I don't know if it was Druckmann or the guy that's like show running it. But like episode 6 is apparently like they were. I just saw something on X earlier, like right before we started the show, where they were like, episode 6, like the team like put their heart into it, and I'm like, oh no, is that the episode?
yeah, that's it. That's it.
Is that it? Episode 6, huh? I was
Yeah.
like, and I'm so, um, I'm so curious how like normal people are gonna take it.
I want to know if it's going to have more of an impact on normies than the Red Wedding episode did of Game of Thrones. Because
I
that was one
don't.
of those things that had like entered into the zeitgeist
Yeah.
for it was like everywhere when that happened. And meanwhile, people who had read the books knew it was coming. So this is the same exact situation. People who play the video game, they know what's coming. Unless they completely change it, they know what's coming.
Yeah, everybody who's played the game knows. I'm sure some of the normies have found out too, just because it was a few years ago. How do you can't? That was such like a defining thing. Like The Last of Us 2 is the Last Jedi of video games.
Okay,
It's the
I can buy that.
it's the Last Jedi of video games. It split the fan base, and it might even have hurt Naughty Dog more. Um, it might have hurt Naughty Dog more than Star Wars originally, because I think Naughty Dog, I don't think they realize it yet, and it's going to be interesting to see whenever this freaking new game that they're releasing, whenever that comes out, if a lot of people are just like, nope, not buying it.
I heard something. I thought I heard something that was like if you bought the remake of Last of Us 2, or you bought something,
yeah,
they would give you that game for free.
no, I don't think so. Not a chance.
I swear I saw something like that.
Sony might be allergic to money, but I'm not sure they're that allergic to money. But yeah, so yeah, and then like this new game, Intergalactic, like he was talking to Alex Garland, who did like what was the name of that movie? The Ex Machina, and he did Civil War last year, which a lot of people didn't like. But they were talking, and Neil Druckmann, like he's aware to some degree of kind of where he stands with a lot of this stuff. I think he's still just a little ignorant to how badly he like affected that market.
Yep.
And then he's like, yeah, and this next game's going to be about religion, so it's like that won't be controversial at all. And I'm like, bro,
God.
what are you doing? Like,
he probably just has like a super big ego.
he does, 100% he does. He somehow wormed his way into basically being the president of Naughty Dog as well. And that company's not what it used to be, man. Even going back and playing like Uncharted, like there was so much charm to those games, even though they're like quote unquote movie games or whatever.
Yep.
And then like of course The Last of Us, like people still have like pretty good opinions of it. And Last of Us 2 came out, man, and there's people like who, I didn't realize this, but there's people who like that stuff happens with Joel. People just stop playing. Return the game. There's like a video of this one guy. I don't know how like over dramatic he's being in it, but he takes the disc out of the PS4 or whatever and like cuts it in half.
Oh god, yeah, it's a little
It
dramatic.
was a little dramatic, but I get it. I mean, but that's what I'm saying is like it was divisive, man, and I'm curious. It's a little different, I think, with the TV show. I don't know if it's had quite the legs that the original game did. Like, there was people loved that original game, and people were playing it a lot, and then of course it had like the multiplayer mode on it, so it had legs for a really long time leading up to the second one. And I'm not sure the TV show has quite hit that like zeitgeist in the same way. Like people were like, "Yeah, it's great. We really like the show," but I don't know if it's quite the fan fever that The Last of Us had when it came out in 2013 or whatever that was. So,
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and probably watch it through again. I mean, there was good stuff about it, but it was,
yeah, it's not the
yeah,
worst show I've ever seen. I just don't like the changes that they made. That was never going to go over. I just don't think it was ever going to go over well with me. Like all the stuff they did with Bill, it's just like, oh
yeah,
brother, like dude, it's
yeah,
just like no subtlety. I don't know. I miss when people wrote these things and or were like subtle about them, like the way that
yeah.
the game portrays
The way the
Bill.
game handled that was so good.
Yeah, because like
So,
his sexuality does not need to be the centerpiece of the story,
nope.
but it's an interesting side thing that they were really smart in the way that they handled it. Like I'm pretty sure the first time I played through it, I didn't realize he was gay.
Yeah, I don't think I did either the first time, but then I picked up on it because then I played through again and was like, I'm getting everything this time.
Yeah, and you're
And
paying a
read all
little.
the notes, and you're like, oh,
You're
okay,
like,
well that's
oh, got it. Yeah,
yeah,
and it's like it's not like on display. And in like the show, there's like, here I am. It's like,
yeah,
oh my. And like he does a ton of stupid stuff that like Bill wouldn't do. And I wasn't buying it, man. Offerman is great as Bill. He's great.
yeah,
He's great casting. I love like the opening part of that, like the first like 10 minutes or so. And then
yep,
it's just like, okay, like this is not what I need from a Last of Us show. And
right.
I find it to be a complete waste of time because Bill's dead and they just move on. And it's like, all right. I was like, what was
It was just like emotional, like it was just like poking people's emotions,
yeah.
trying to poke people's emotions as opposed to trying to actually like further the story. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah. It just doesn't add a whole lot to it.
No, it really didn't. It just was a filler episode just to make it.
And speaking of filler, that is kind of how I feel about Daredevil. It's like a lot of the stuff in, especially episode 3 and 4.
Yep.
It's just like I finished it before, obviously before we started, and I was like, yeah, it kind of feels like filler. Doesn't feel like a lot of this is all that necessary. Little too much time at marriage counseling for Vanessa and Fisk. Just like, whew, just not vibing with it.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Well, it's getting late. We've been doing this for 2 hours.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah,
It was fun.
dude. Thanks for coming. Obviously you're always, this is an open invite.
Beautiful.
And yeah, we're gonna do Last of Us. We'll have you back on once Daredevil's over too, and we can talk about how we're feeling once we've seen the full show. Since I guess this is technically I thought it was gonna be more, and I was like, dang, it's not even quite the halfway point, but we're basically at the halfway point. So it's good
Yep.
good time to talk about it right now, and then we'll get another opportunity to do that later.
Cool. Look
And
forward to it.
awesome. Well, thanks to everyone who tuned in tonight to the live show. We have kind of officially moved the show to Tuesdays, 7:45-ish Eastern time. And Joseph will be back next week since he's finally done with all of his traveling projects for work. I'm not 100% sure. There's a lot of movies I got to catch up on, a lot of stuff that came out in theaters. That I haven't seen yet, and so we'll probably be catching up on some of that and got some more news. So until next time, y'all, take it easy.
See ya.
All right.